At some point, without a clear moment or warning, you stopped fully being where you are, and instead of living inside your life, you began hovering slightly outside it, watching yourself move through days that feel functional but strangely distant. You still wake up, respond, work, speak, plan, and complete tasks. Yet your attention is rarely anchored in the moment your body occupies, constantly pulled forward into what comes next or backward into what should have been different. This absence doesn't feel dramatic or alarming. It feels normal, and that is precisely why it goes unnoticed for so long. You eat meals without tasting them, listen to conversations without fully hearing them, rest without feeling restored, and move through experiences that end before you realize you were never fully there. Days blur together, weeks pass quickly, and time feels like it is accelerating, not because life is rich and meaningful, but because very little of it is being deeply experienced. You are told this is just adulthood, that this is what responsibility feels like, that fragmentation is the price of productivity. But this state did not arise naturally. It was trained. Your attention learned, slowly and repeatedly, that being present offers no immediate reward, no measurable outcome, no visible proof of value, while being distracted, responsive, and constantly thinking ahead is praised and reinforced. Presence cannot be tracked, optimized, compared, or monetized, so it is quietly treated as inefficient, unnecessary, and optional. Instead, your mind is encouraged to live in projection, constantly rehearsing the future, solving problems that haven't arrived, preparing for outcomes that may never happen, or it is pulled into reflection, replaying past conversations, mistakes, missed opportunities, and imagined alternatives, long after the moment has passed. And while your mind travels through time, your life continues without your full participation. The system does not need to remove your freedom to control you. It only needs to remove your presence, because a person who is never fully here is far easier to guide, rush, and influence. A distracted mind adapts quickly, reacts predictably, and rarely questions the direction it is being pulled in. Presence, on the other hand, creates friction. A present person notices tension early, senses misalignment before it becomes burnout, and feels discomfort before it turns into numbness. And that awareness is inconvenient for systems built on speed and compliance. So distraction is normalized, multitasking is praised, constant stimulation is expected, and silence begins to feel uncomfortable, even threatening. You are rarely alone with your thoughts anymore, and when you are, you instinctively reach for noise, content, or movement to fill the space before anything honest can surface. Because stillness reveals what distraction hides. How tired you are, how disconnected you feel, how long it has been since you experienced something fully instead of consuming it quickly. So attention fragments again. The phone becomes a reflex, busyness becomes an identity, and mental noise becomes a form of protection rather than a problem. Not because you enjoy it, but because it prevents you from noticing what has been slowly fading beneath the surface. Your inner continuity. The sense of being one coherent self moving through time, rather than a collection of reactions responding to endless inputs. When presence disappears, meaning weakens, not suddenly, but gradually, because meaning requires depth, and depth requires attention held long enough to feel something fully. This is why pleasure fades quickly, achievements feel empty sooner than expected, and rest fails to restore you, because you were never fully present for any of it. The system benefits from this absence. A present person asks uncomfortable questions about direction, values, and priorities, while an absent person only asks how to cope better inside conditions they no longer examine. So coping replaces understanding, efficiency replaces awareness, speed replaces depth, and presence becomes something you visit occasionally instead of something you live inside. But presence has not disappeared. It has been buried beneath urgency, stimulation, and constant mental movement that leaves no space for awareness to settle. Reclaiming presence feels uncomfortable at first, because slowing down feels wrong to a mind trained on acceleration, and silence feels loud to a nervous system adapted to constant input. But that discomfort is not failure. It is a sign that something essential is returning. Presence does not arrive through effort, discipline, or optimization. It arrives through permission. Permission to pause without justification, to feel without distraction, and to exist without performing. The moment you stop trying to escape the present moment, it begins to open. Sensations return. thoughts slow enough to be examined instead of obeyed, and emotions become clearer instead of overwhelming, and with that clarity comes a realization that changes everything. Much of what exhausts you does not come from life itself, but from constantly being mentally somewhere else. The system does not fear your intelligence, creativity, or ambition. It fears your presence, because a present person cannot be rushed easily, manipulated quietly, or guided without awareness. Presence restores choice. Choice over where your attention goes, choice over what matters, and choice over when enough is enough. This is not about rejecting responsibility or withdrawing from the world. It is about remembering that your life only happens in one place, and every moment spent elsewhere is a moment given away here. Now. This is Mindrax Theory, and presence is the quiet resistance that changes everything.